G'day, this is a build video from a milling machine stand. I'm going to do this over a few weekends and show you the progress as I go along. Hopefully I'll learn something from all of this and hopefully you find it interesting viewing. Let's go. I started by marking up the mill in Art of Illusion. This is a freeware package, and from that I could figure out what working height I wanted the milling machine to be sitting at, and from there I was able to make sure that I designed my stand to the appropriate sizes. So all of this blue stuff is what we'll be making, and the idea is that in the two areas on each side of the milling machine there'll be some drip tray style pans that collect the swarf and any coolant that I might run, and eventually gather that into a tray in the middle here for disposal. But in the meantime we can get on with making the stand itself. You might be able to see these grey tubes poking out the bottom of the legs. It's easier if we go to the wireframe mode. You can see we've got scaffold tubing inside the legs, and we'll use standard scaffold jacks to adjust and level the bed height, not just for getting it level, but also we'll have a fair bit of height adjustment at our disposal by doing it that way. So once I've figured out my design, I then know what lengths of material I require. So I then go over to this other program that I have. I'll put a link to it in the description below. But this program is another freeware package. It's a 1D linear optimizer, and it figures out for your given sizes that you require and your quantities and what your stock size is. You can even give it a quantity of how much stock you require. It'll tell you where to do all your cuts to get your optimal use of that stock. It gives you a nice pretty little graphic there, so you can see we're getting really good usage of a couple of 4 metre lengths there, and do our last lot of cuts there, and that sort of groups together your scrap. There's one big piece there too. So that's really handy for making sure that you don't purchase too much stock in the first place. I'm using 75 square. It's a 3mm wall, and I bought 12 metres of it. So that's what we'll be making it out of today. When I mark my cuts, I like to do 2 lines. That's just an allowance for the thickness of the angle grinder blade. I'll start with the light cut, and then once I've got that nice and straight, I'll then work it deeper and deeper until it is cut right through the metal. If I was using a 9-inch angle grinder, it would probably be able to go straight through, not a problem. But I just find the 100mm discs can deviate from your line. Once I've got that initial shallow line made, then it sits in that for the subsequent passes. This is my Triton metal cutter. It doesn't have a grinding disc, it's got a tungsten carbide cutting disc instead. Makes a bit of a racket. We'll just rotate it to get to that bottom bit. The metal cutter has an auto clamping mechanism that clamps your workpiece when it comes down. When you lift your hand right back up, it lets go. The ads for the metal cutter would have you believe that the cuts will end up so smooth you can eat off them, but my results have never been that clean, so I'll just trim it up on the grinder. I figured I could use the milling machine with the facer to straighten out this bit here. Just want it nice and flat so that it works well as a cap for the legs. So here we go. That's probably flat enough. Imagine, if you will, this corner is both cut off at 45, so it's just a single nice right angle there. What we're going to do is bring the leg tubing down into the inside of that corner. So what I'm planning on doing is first drilling out a hole to take the leg tubing before I cut it off on a 45. I think that's going to be much easier than cutting it first and then trying to cut out half a circle. This square isn't that fantastic on its 45-degree angles, and it ended up costing me a whole weekend of correcting work, which we'll get to see in my next video installment. I'm going to cut these circles out, probably using the boring head on the mill, and we'll measure it a bit more accurately once we've got it set up on the mill. So what I've done here is just put a couple of clamp bars down on the bed, and I've set my X and Y so that my drill bit will always come down in the spot that I want. So, boom, just like that. So we can just get these pilot holes knocked out, and we'll pilot it, we'll drill it out a bit more so that it's big enough for the boring head to be able to then start work on them. Stay tuned for part 2. You could even subscribe to my channel if you like.